Welcome to episode 4 of Not That Important. Today, we're going to talk about the reaction to Pakistan's exit from the Asia Cup, the media reaction, specifically how everyone's going crazy, everyone's losing their cool, the world has ended ahead of the World Cup as it always does, and the panic button is fully set. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go into Naseem Shah replacements. We'll discuss who the potential candidates are and the pros and cons for each candidate. But firstly,
Much more comfortable in this situation, huh? Instead of like, it doesn't feel right if you know who the hell's gonna be in the squad, man. Like a little bit of this chaos is where we feel more comfortable, I think. So
yeah, 100%. Honestly, like if Naseem Shah was fit and there was chaos with other people, I might have felt that, like a little bit better. But it just that has put a
yeah,
damper on everything. But let's get into it. So firstly, I just wanted to address what has been going on in the media. There's been a lot of hurrah about the fact that there's been a huge dressing room debate after the match. Babar Azam apparently has you know taken a steel chair and gone to gone at the rest of the team. Shahid Shafidi is responding with something else. They're calling each other out. There's fights. There's this. There's that. Firstly, let's be straight about this. We've watched Pakistan cricket for almost 20 years now. This is the most united dressing room that we've seen. We've seen groupings. We've seen people wanting captains out. We've seen like
Shoaib Akhtar
arguments
hit
with.
Muhammad Asif with a fucking bat before the World Cup started.
So in comparison to all of that, like these guys are saints. They're the most united dressing room we've seen in the Pakistan team. They've all played together. They've grown up together. And honestly, if there wasn't any arguments or any debates or any calling each other out after a defeat like this, like I'd be worried. Like we've played cricket,
yeah,
obviously not at a international level, but Arman and I know how much we used to argue and fight with each other. Anyone who was around during that time who to see us again, you know, attest to that. And so if there wasn't any like arguments or people calling each other out, I'd be worried.
you don't
I think
grow. You
that's
don't
it.
grow as a team.
You don't grow as a team unless there's like that honesty in which you can call each other out. Of course, everyone was hurting after the game. Babar Azam is no exception. I think we could see he always comes out to press conferences with a smile on his face, but I think that's a bit of a mask that he wears to protect himself with the media. Even in the media, when he's in press conferences and people bring things up, he's very quick to put them down, and you see that he doesn't have time for bullshit basically. So I
Oh.
can imagine the dressing room as well. He's the same way. And of course, like things went wrong this Asia Cup. Player performances were bad. The team didn't, I guess, you know, live up to the expectations that we had of them. And of course, there's going to be fingers pointed and things addressed, and I think that's okay. I think there's a lot of young men in this dressing room who are all passionate about winning for Pakistan and who have a lot to show, and they're excellent cricketers in their own right. And so everyone obviously would have an opinion about what went wrong. But at the end of the day, Babar is the captain, and I'm sure that everyone is behind him. So I have no doubt about that. I just wanted to address that really quickly because the Pakistan media takes like you give them an inch and they'll go to town with it.
Hux, as an intramural winning captain, uh, that you gotta yell at your teammates sometimes. Like
Of
it's
course.
not about like the true test of unity is if you can have those tough conversations. So I don't think it was anything more than that. Um, Again, in Pakistan, people have agendas. It's sad, and people there are lobbies against certain players for certain players, and everybody, a lot of people, I should say, rather have specific agendas. So did they yell at each other? Probably. Who cares?
Yeah,
This is what
that's
happens in
fine.
professional
I
sports.
like it.
Um, I like it. It has to be done sometimes. Don't believe everything you see on Instagram. Um, I don't know if there's any grouping in the team. Not only would I like to think there's not. I genuinely don't believe there is any.
Mm.
And I think there's nothing else to discuss. You keep it
Look,
moving from
we
there.
lost the Asia Cup.
Yeah,
We didn't play well. There's plenty of things to improve on. We'll discuss a few of those things today. There's
yeah.
obviously injuries to contend with. Emotions are getting the better of all of us. But there's a World Cup in 2 weeks, so let's all keep a calm head. We have the players to go out and win this World Cup, regardless of what has happened over the past 2 weeks. And let's look at getting together, and putting our best foot forward and seeing how we
Yeah,
can how we can
yeah.
get that World Cup. Naseem Shah is ruled out, most likely. I haven't gotten confirmation from the PCB yet, but Cricinfo was reporting on it, so we'll go with that.
I still check Google News every 3 hours to
Yeah, bro, I'm
get
hoping.
some.
Like I wake up every day, or like I woke up this morning just
Yeah,
hoping it was like some terrible nightmare. But
yeah.
unfortunately, it is true. And yeah, like when I saw the news first, I was like genuinely shook for a few hours. Um,
It was
yeah,
a
I
yeah.
yeah, it was tough to take. But okay, so the pace bowling replacements is what we wanted to talk about today. Again, everyone is throwing in their names out there. Everyone, it's the World Cup. Like obviously, everyone has opinions in Pakistan. Like you said, there's like lobbies, there's agendas, there's different people wanting different people in the side. But I think for us, we've narrowed it down to six candidates as far as like who we'll talk about today in the pace bowling charts. And we're actually going to make it seven and talk about Wasim Jr. as well, because of course he's been with the squad for a while, but he hasn't cemented his place in the starting 11 because of course that was going to be Naseem, Haris, and Shaheen. So we'll look specifically at each of those candidates and what they bring to the team. I think we'll start with let's start with Wasim Jr. because he's been with the team a while. I think I'll start and say that that's a positive that he's been with the team for a while because he knows what his role is. We've seen matches where Shaheen, Haris, and Wasim Jr. have played together as a trio. When Naseem Shah was rested, I think against New Zealand as well. And overall, he has a good record for Pakistan in ODIs. He's taken wickets, he's bowled well. The major concern for me would not be his performances or what he brings to the team, but what it does to the rest of the bowlers, because I don't think Wasim Jr. can open the bowling. And so Haris Rauf would have to take the new ball. And that's not to say I don't have faith in Haris Rauf in doing so, but
Don't
I
want that
think
though.
he's so good in the middle overs, and you need a middle overs enforcer, especially with your spin department struggling, that I don't want to move him from that position. So that puts a little bit of a concern or a question mark around Wasim Jr. Starting. Again, he might be good enough to take as that fourth pacer, but if he's replacing Naseem Shah, I'm not sure he's the guy for that.
He's not a Naseem replacement. He was in the squad, so I mean, in terms of if you're being fair, he's the guy you persist with. I think you forget the game he had against Sri Lanka. The
He
negatives with
bowled three
him is that
overs, man. Like he
he
bowled
bowled
three
three
overs.
overs, man. It happens. Ek edge pe bhi usko chauka pada, like these things. It's fine. The negatives with him is that he's not a new ball bowler. Um, and the other negative is that I think we saw in the emerging Asia Cup as well. He's not in the greatest form, to be completely
That's what I was
honest.
gonna say. Yeah.
But the positive is that, look, man, Wasim Jr. When you look at all of these pacers and you see he's the one who's actually been earmarked as the fourth for the last 2 years, you'll be a little bit surprised when you think about some of the other guys we're going to mention later. But he's taken wickets every time he's played, man. One day cricket, T20 I cricket, our World Cup campaign changed when we decided to play him last year in Australia for the T20 World Cup, and I
Hmm.
thought he was really really impressive there. He has
Yep.
one ball. He angles it in around 140. A lot of his dismissals are bold and LBW. He has a perfect action for reverse swing, and with the oldish ball, he can wreak havoc, which I think really is his that's his
Forte.
strength. That's his forte. He's not an all rounder yet, unfortunately, but he is a gun fielder. He's got an absolute rocket for an arm. So those are some of the things that go for and against him. But I think if you're looking for a like for like replacement for Naseem, he's not that.
Yep. 100%. Cool. The next player is the guy who nearly got us over the line against Sri Lanka, and Zaman Khan, because again he's with the squad right now, or he was in the last few matches. The good thing about Zaman is that he has cricket under his belt recently. He's played in the 100. He's done well. He's continued to perform wherever like he's been given the chance, and the PSL with Lahore Qalandars in the 100 as well. And I think we've spoken about, and everyone's seen now how good he is at the death, with that slingy action, with those Yorkers, with those fuller deliveries, and the variations that he brings. Those are his strengths.
And the heart. He's got the heart. Um, the one thing working again against him is that if this was a T20 World Cup, he
Hmm.
would be in my
He
squad
would be
without
100% in it
hundred
without any
percent,
doubt in my mind. Yeah.
without a shadow of a doubt. He would be there. I don't know who I'd have to drop, but I would drop to get
Yep.
Zaman Khan in there. Um, with one days, the problem is he's a phenomenal death bowler. Like we've covered that in the previous two episodes. But you need 10 overs from your third pacer.
Hmm.
And I do think he can be effective at different times, but again, when we mention these guys, I'm not really sure where he ranks in terms of the new ball. And the thing with Zaman, again, like we talked about, he's not express pace.
Hmm.
Um, he doesn't get incredible swing. The special thing about him is his ability to control his nerve of the death,
Yep.
right? But what do we do for the 6 or 7 overs before that?
Yeah.
Is what we have to
100%.
see. If do they believe he can take wickets throughout the game? If they can, you know more than me, throw him in.
Hmm.
But I think for you and me, that's the primary concern with having him in there. And you don't want to take him out because he's shown that he has the guts
Yeah.
and how he
And
how he bowled in that last over.
that's the thing. It's going to be a tough call to not choose him. Another thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about doesn't really relate to any fast bowler in particular, but it relates to Barber's use of them. More, it's as fans, it's going to be really hard for us to forget about Naseem Shah, but it's going to be even harder for him as a captain because he's going to be comparing everyone to him in the sense that Wasim Jr. didn't bowl well at the start and then he didn't bowl throughout the game because of that.
Yeah,
Or like he did bowl, but he only bowled 3 overs because
yeah.
again, Babar was expecting Naseem level performances from him. He's going to have to trust whoever he picks. Like if they have a few
Spoiler
bad
alert:
overs,
like
he's
none of these guys are him.
none of these
He's gonna
guys
have
are
to.
Naseem Shah. You're not going to get that. You're going to have to make peace with it and unfortunately move on and trust them and back whoever you pick. And again, I feel like once he picks once the squad is picked and whoever gets selected, I have faith that Babar will do that. But it is something that he'll have to sort of mentally prepare himself for in games, trusting those guys in difficult moments and giving them the ball.
If we go on to, I agree with you completely. If we go on to the third guy now, I want to talk about Isanullah, and I think I mean he's carrying an injury. If he wasn't, for me, it's with my eyes closed. I would
Oh, really?
the yeah, because
Wow.
he's got the star power and he's got the ability. He's a wicket
Hmm.
taker. He's got pace. He can bowl Yorkers at the end. The only doubt, and this is going to be consistent for most of these guys, he's maybe not a new ball bowler, but I mean, he's got a lot of raw talent. So for
Hmm.
me, if he was healthy, I wouldn't think too much about it. I would throw him in. Um,
The the concerns I would have, even if he was healthy, and I think he is because there's a clip I've seen of him bowling again. Just because he's bowling doesn't mean he's ready to
so yeah,
play the World Cup for Pakistan. But
exactly. Yeah,
he's only played like, and this is consistent with a lot of these guys, including Zaman as well. Only played like 8 to 10, 12 list A matches, so he doesn't have a
yeah,
lot of experience of bowling long spells. Um, he again his forte is also T20 cricket, but just because that's what he's come through it and he's played, and then of course that injury with Naseem Shah as well. You don't want to risk another young fast bowler and
young
put him in
guy.
the spotlight too early. So I think I like what I see from Hasanullah. I would say that this is a little bit too soon for him.
Hmm.
And I don't think that's a bad thing for his career long term if he isn't picked. Of course, every player would love to get picked and go to the World
Yeah,
Cup, but I think it might be a blessing in disguise for him to
maybe a
just
bit
like
early in your
uh,
opinion.
slide under it.
Hotline Bling. Let's go, Mr. Hotline Bling first. Oh,
Okay,
Shahnawaz Dahani.
Shah Nawaz Dahani, straight out of Larkana. If we talked about Zaman Khan's heart, Shahnawaz Dhani's personality is something else. A little bit over the top sometimes,
Yeah,
but like
yeah,
when he first came through, the celebrations, the passion, the heart, everything was just amazing about Dhani. And you feel like Pakistan cricket right now with Naseem sort of injury and everyone being down, we could use some of that. We could use like a personality like that in the squad. And he has a good listed record. Like he's a little older than like Ehsanullah, Zaman Khan, these guys. So he has a little bit more experience. Again, I'd be concerned with the fact that he hasn't played a lot this year. He was
Yeah.
ruled out of the PSL as well. And so like again, PSL is the tournament that really allows fast bowlers to put themselves up or like put their hands up for Pakistan team selection.
Yeah.
And so that's a concern. But he did play the emerging Asia Cup, so he did get a little bit of overs under his belt. Although like he did get a five-fer against Nepal, but he didn't really have any other performances of note.
Yeah.
So, but I think overall, like he can bowl with the new ball. He can get a bit of
Yeah.
bounce. He can bowl middle overs just because I feel like he can bowl the short ball well. He can bounce out batsmen. He brings pace as well, and the length he bowls, I feel like would be suitable for like in India on the flat decks. You need a 140 plus bowlers, and you need someone with a bit of oomph. And I think Dhani brings it.
And
I
he's
just
got
haven't
that.
seen enough of him this year to say whether he's ready to go.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because of all the guys we're going to list, him along with maybe one of the other guys we're going to list, they have all the attributes you want. Like the Hani does get a little bit of movement with the new ball. He's a bit older. He's a bit more mature. He's played more cricket. He's got pace. He can bowl Yorkers. He can be expensive. He can be
Mm,
expensive, but he's a
yeah.
wicket taker.
Yep.
Um, I don't. He's played the LPL and I think he's played okay, but from the emerging Asia Cup and from the Pakistan A Tour of Zimbabwe, he doesn't seem to be in the best form right now, which is a little bit annoying because if he
Mm,
was, again, he would be one
I
of
think he
these
would be a shoo-in,
borderline no
yeah.
brain type selections because he's been in the system and he hasn't made the squad, but he's been in the reserve squad, traveling reserves
Yeah.
for the last two or three
One thing I
tournaments.
would say is Mohammad Amir was absolutely awful before the 2019 World Cup. We've seen, I mean, obviously that was Amir and he had that
Yeah,
experience. We've seen other instances of players just not being on it, and then suddenly the World Cup comes. Wahab Riaz hadn't played any cricket or
Wahab
wasn't
is
even in
always
contention for the 2019
Wahab
World
made
Cup.
a
He
career
comes
out
out of
of doing
nowhere.
that.
Exactly, just come
Yeah,
out of nowhere and perform. And I feel like whoever gets selected, they'll have, dude, it's a World Cup. This is what you've lived your whole like
that's
life
true.
for.
It's a really good
Like
point.
I feel like everyone will rise to the occasion. It just depends on who we select. But
Yeah.
again, Dhani brings a lot to the table. It's just the cricket under his belt and recent performances that would put a little bit of doubt in my mind.
If I'm being honest, I'm kind of getting the feeling that he won't be selected. Like just
Hmm.
even from here, what about you? What does the gut feel say about him?
Yeah, I just feel like we haven't seen enough.
You haven't seen enough. But again, if he gets thrown in, fair enough. Like let's maybe
Yeah,
he can
I
do what you were
honestly, I
saying.
would be excited. I would be excited by
I
it.
would be
I
excited
would
for
be a
sure.
little worried because like of
Yeah.
I haven't seen him also, but like I'd be
Yeah.
excited for sure. And
Um,
then yeah, Arshad
Hasnain?
Iqbal, I was thinking.
Arshad Iqbal. Let's start with Arshad Iqbal, I guess.
Because Arshad Iqbal is someone who was never played for Pakistan. Or did he play
Yeah.
one game?
I think he played one game.
I think he hasn't played an
T20 game.
ODI. He might have played a
He's
T20
not.
game.
Yeah.
Um, he isn't the quickest, so his pace would be an issue in flat tracks. However, he's performed very well in domestic. He's performed very well in emerging Asia Cup. He has recent ODI experience, and I think out of all the pacers, he's the one who's performing the best this year in the domestic circuit. And he's always overlooked for the Pakistan side just because
Yeah.
there's so many fast bowlers. But as far as like consistent performances, someone continuing to grow and develop, because often we look at these guys for face value and we don't see like what they could become as well. He's someone who I
Yeah.
think has bowled a lot, so he has that experience as well. I I've never felt that he has that oomph to him and like that
Yeah.
special like Pakistani fast bowler
Yeah.
what do you see from them, and so like I would be a little hesitant to put him forward, but I think um the people who are suggesting his name, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Again, maybe he could bring like a little bit of that Hassan Ali factor. I know he's a different sort of bowler, but sort of hit that hard length, bowl
Yeah.
line and length, bowl consistently, and that's one thing we've seen, right? We've seen in the Asia Cup as well. Like we saw the Bangladeshi Pacers against um, which match was it? Against us as well. But even like
Yeah.
yeah, we saw that they bowled line and
And the
length,
Sri
and if
Lanka
you
match as
in
well.
the Sri Lanka match, like and the Indian pieces as well. If you just bowl line and length and there's a little bit happening, like there's enough for fast bowlers to produce. And I feel like he's a guy who could bowl consistent length. So the other guys we've spoken about, they probably bring a lot more to the table as far as like wicket taking ability, but I don't know if they have the consistency to bowl in the right areas. And one thing we have to remember is that Naseem's been in a controlling sort of role when Shaheen is attacking from
Exactly.
the other end.
Great
So we
point.
do need someone who could. Yeah, that's something we might have to consider as well because we'll have to look at like bowling partnerships, right? Because worst case, like, what if you get someone in who can bowl with the new ball, but can also bowl in the middle overs? Then, like, you can bowl like 2, 3 overs with them at the top. You can bowl Harris Rauf. You can rotate. There's no hard and fast rule that you have to bowl five overs from both
No,
bowlers at
there's
the top,
not.
right?
No, no, for
So I
sure.
think that's something to consider. What's your thoughts on Arshad?
I think that's an excellent point what you made. Like if you're looking at new ball combination, to pair up with Shaheen, he's probably the best guy. By some distance, I would say to take because he has that control. Little bit of Omar Gol or Hassan Ali in terms of like
Mm,
that seam movement and bowling wicket to wicket. And I think he can. I think it would be a brave selection, but I think it would be an inspired selection as well. The one thing that holds me back from picking him is I don't know how effective he would be at the
yeah.
death of the innings, which
Hmm.
is you're gonna have to bowl the death of the innings if you're the third pacer. Um, he probably is the most skilled new ball bowler. He's probably the most consistent, maybe the most disciplined in a lot of ways. But a little bit of that lack of pace and without, I mean, maybe I'm being a harsh critic, but I don't quite see him as a death bowler in the same mold as some of the other guys.
Yeah.
So for me, that's actually what would stop me from picking him.
No, that's fair. And I think we weren't planning on bringing him up. He wasn't in my 6 or 7 to speak about. But given that we just spoke about Arshad in those terms, what about Fahim Ashraf? Obviously, he's in the squad. And I know you've spoken about you don't want to, we're Pakistan, we don't want a 120, high 120s, low 130s sort of pacer opening the bowling. But he could give what we spoke about, right? He can give that control. He can
He
also
can.
be like the fourth pacer. So you could give like, you could have someone like Wasim Jr. as well with him, just so that to give that death overs cover.
No, no, you're not
Thoughts?
wrong at all. Like I think Pakistan are gonna have to be really flexible. I think we're gonna have to see a little bit of either if Fahim is in the squad, him bowling with the new ball a little bit, or you're
Mhm.
gonna have to go back to you know um earlier in the last 10 years or so when we saw the guys like Imad or Hafiz or Nawaz opening the bowling. I think you're gonna have to play around with that a little bit, and you're gonna have to be flexible depending on who your squad is. So Fahim is definitely a guy who gives you a little bit of versatility in that aspect. And if there's something he can do, he can hit a length for
Mhm.
the opening overs and be disciplined. Um, well, I'm actually gonna get a little bit more into Fahim when we discuss one of the other bowlers that we've mentioned.
Okay. Mhm.
But it's a decent
Yeah.
shout. I'm happy you brought it up. You know which
Yeah.
one I'm talking about too.
I know which one you're talking about. Okay, perfect. So the next one I want to
Mohasnen?
talk about is Hasnan. Um, I think
Yeah,
first thing would be pace, pace. Yeah, he brings
pace
that.
is pace. Yeah,
He'll replace Naseem in that sense in terms of bringing the pace, and he's also shown that he can step in for like when Shaheen was injured last year, he stepped up
yeah,
in the Asia Cup. And again, he didn't go to the World Cup in the end. I feel like he has that. Like he was called up for 2019 World Cup at the last minute, I think, right? He didn't play a game.
yeah. He
Oh,
didn't
was he?
play a game.
He didn't play a game.
He didn't play a game.
And then, so he
Uh,
hasn't really had exposure in the tournament, so this could be his chance. I think his injury is the one that concerns me because I don't think he's fit. He bowled well in the
okay, yeah.
LPL. He's
He bowled
bowled,
really well in the LPL.
yeah, he has a good list A record.
Yeah,
I think he can bowl with the new ball and the middle overs. I'd question like his ability at the death. But
yeah,
if you have
yeah.
Shaheen and Harris, like maybe you're willing to forgo that, right? Because it's not like he's a bad bowler. Like it's not like he's gonna,
No, he's a very talented bowler.
and he
He's,
has that
I
pace where
think,
like if you're bowling to lower order, like he'll wrap it up. He won't go for runs
yeah,
against
yeah,
like he can get wickets, right?
yeah. Hasnain gets a lot of flack, but
Mm,
I think like in the last few years, he's really improved as a new ball bowler. Like
yeah,
you see
yeah.
him getting a lot of shape with the outswinger early. Man, my again, he's a talented bowler and he fits like the archetype of a Pakistani pacer in every single regard except for one. He doesn't he lacks that confidence, which
Mm,
is the
yeah,
problem for me. The only issue I have with Muhammad Hasnan is the fact that he can be in the middle of a brilliant spell, but if he comes back in the death and someone gets after him a little
yeah.
bit, you see all of the swag
Go away.
disappear.
Yeah.
In the LPL, we saw him bowl a little bit at the death, and I think they used him as a first, second change bowler, and he did well. But that honestly is my only concern with him, is that if you have him bowling at the death, despite all the talent he has, if you get after him, um, he loses belief in himself very quickly. From what I've
Yeah.
seen in those
We've seen that.
situations,
Yeah, for sure.
aside from that, man, like he's a factory made Pakistani pacer. And I think he played really well in the Asia Cup last year. It's just that it's one small thing, but it has big impact, um, right?
I mean that's a small thing, but it's also his injury where I don't know if he's fit enough.
Yeah, yeah.
I yeah. Again, if he so he played throughout the LPL. Did he get injured in the LPL?
I'm not sure, honestly. I didn't even know he was injured until until they didn't announce him, because I would have
Yeah,
expected him to be announced as a
yeah, for sure.
replacement for Naseem.
Um,
But
Goodness.
if he's, let's say he's fit and firing, it's a tempting one, I think, because he's been a guy who they have thrown in those
I
situations,
haven't
right?
seen
Like,
anything concrete about what his injury is or what it is, but I feel like that's just what the sentiment going around is that he's injured.
yeah,
So again, that's what Hussein can bring to the table. But yeah, like you said, his confidence and being thrown off the line, and I can already see the smile on Arman's face before we even mention the next bowler because it's his boy Hassan Ali, the generator. I'll let you speak. Go for it.
I want you. You want me to start?
I can go for it. Okay, I'll tell you
You
what
go
Hassan Ali
first.
brings.
I'm gonna be too
Hassan Ali
hyper. You can-
brings the personality. Hassan Ali brings. He's someone who's played with all these guys. Like he was the best bowler in the Champions Trophy. Um, you know, he won us that tournament with his excellent performances. He brings a little bit with the bat as well. He brings that swagger to that lineup. Experienced. He's played enough ODIs over the years where you wouldn't be afraid of him, like worrying about the stage he's playing at.
you know what he's about.
You know what he's about. He's had good county performances this year. The concern would be, again, those pitches are very different to what he's going to be bowling over here. There's going to be flat tracks. Does he have the pace? And secondly, like if he starts to, if there's an off day, it could be a really off day. And I hate to say anything negative about Hassan Ali because I love him. But that's a concern. On the other hand, I think you're probably going to mention, but he did bowl well in the LPL as well. So he does have that coming into it.
I have concerns too. Like, it took me a while to actually get comfortable with what I'm about to say. Um, I The thing with Hassan Ali is he's up here or he's down here.
Mhm.
So if
Yeah, I
you're
know what
selecting
you're
him,
getting.
you better know where the hell he is on that spectrum at that time. As much as I love him, like he can disappear at times. Um, but if you get him at the right time, I think it could be a really like inspiring selection.
Hmm.
With him, I don't know what type of form he's in. He bowled really well in the LPL, and man, I was looking up the PSL stats as well. He bowled well.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that one game. Like, he had a good PSL. He's a guy like Hassan Ali at his absolute best is a first change bowler,
Hmm.
but he can bowl with the new ball. He can bowl with the new ball. If there's reverse, he's lethal.
Hmm.
Um, Fine, he maybe doesn't have that extreme pace, but
Bro,
his
these guys,
ability to
this is a separate topic, but like they've ruined or ruined a part of the game, essential part of the game with these two new balls. Like reverse is
I
not gonna be that
it
much of a
sucks.
factor.
It's
Like
stupid.
if
Yeah,
Pakistan's bowlers had one ball being bowled throughout, apparently it's because
yeah,
like the white ball loses its color after like 30 overs or
yeah.
something. So they
They just want
they
more
don't
runs.
want
That's
that.
that's that's
But
code
at the end
for
of the
we
day,
want you
that's
to
what it
score.
is.
But I think we'll
Otherwise,
still
does
find it
Pakistan
Hux on these
attack with
really.
with like a
I
40 over ball, we'd be
Yeah.
lethal.
Oh, it's
But we
lethal.
will.
It's lethal.
Yeah.
They'll still find reverse on the really dry pitches. The thing with Hassan Ali is he has that experience. Um, he has done it in a big tournament. Him and Wahab Riaz kind of are in that same prototype of guys. Like, with they just have that like Jazba Junoon thing about them, where like they
Mhm.
can they could come in
Turn it
and
on.
will themselves to turn it on. He has obviously he dropped that catch, and I think a lot of things have gone
But the thing I'd be worried
downward
about
for him
Hassan
since
Ali
then.
is I like what he has to bring. They're gonna go after him if he doesn't do well. Like I'm always
But
like, we love him
that's where
so.
my that's what I'm sorry to cut you, but that's what I wanted to say. You can use him as the fourth pacer.
Yeah.
I don't. if you pull out their records and you hide whose name it is, तुम्हें हसन अली और फहीम अशरफ के बैटिंग में घंटा फर्क नजर आएगा. If anything, you might find Hassan Ali's record a little bit more impressive in terms with the strike. They average the exact same, not
Yeah,
just in one day cricket, in list
yeah,
day cricket as well. I
that's
think.
crazy.
I think, don't hold me to that, but I think in list day it's about the same. Hassan Ali has played more match winning cameos for Pakistan than Fahim Ashraf has. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, Fahim
There's
hasn't
no
delivered
doubt
for
about that.
Pakistan, that's for sure.
Fahim, the sad thing with Fahim is Fahim, I think in the last few years, when he hasn't been getting his chances, when his batting is improved, but it comes down to you can have Hassan Ali as your fourth pacer, and and like you could play him in a Wasim or him in a Zaman if
Yeah,
you don't want to play the second spin all rounder. And I don't feel that bad about Shaheen coming in at 8 if Hassan Ali's coming in at 9 or vice versa.
yeah.
Again, you back your top order to bat
But you're
35 of
gonna
the 50
win.
overs.
Exactly. You're going to
Yeah.
win a game by getting the opposition 10 wickets. You're probably not going to win a game with your number 8 batsman. Like, again, that could
No.
happen. But again, when it gets to that point, Shaheen, Hassan, Naseem has shown it in the past. They're all capable of, like, those last two,
Yeah,
three
yeah,
overs if
yeah,
you need
yeah,
stuff. If it gets to 15 overs, but honestly, like, Fahim Ashraf and these guys are probably not going to do it anyways, right? Like, if you're like six
yeah.
down with 15 overs to go, like, at that point, how much is that
That
extra all rounder
yeah,
actually bringing to the
and
table?
that's the thing, bro. At that point, you don't need your number 8 and number 9 to score 50. Like if they win you a match, it's gonna be because they scored 20 off
Hmm.
13 or something like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Which bro, like if you have Hassan Ali and Shaheen coming in back to back, like Hassan Ali has
Plus, Hassan Ali
it's
will
a, I
have
know it's
nothing
a
to lose here. Like
nothing
this
to
is his
lose here at
last
all.
chance. Like he probably
Yeah,
thought he's never gonna play in the ODI or at least limited overs for Pakistan. Again, with Pakistan, you never know
I
with
don't think he
twisters.
thought that.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
he
he thought
thought
that.
that.
Maybe that was
I don't think he. Yeah.
a bit
But
too
we
far
all
ahead.
thought
But
that. We all
yeah,
thought that though
yeah,
at a certain point. कि
yeah,
इसका कोई scene ही नहीं है.
for sure.
Again, it depends on the form. With those flat pitches, he can go for 80. He can go
Mm,
for 90. It's a
mm,
scary thought. But if he's in form, and if you're using him as a fourth pacer, house money, bro. Like there's no risk at that point. If you're
yeah.
using him as a bona fide third seamer, yes, like it could get a little bit dangerous
Honestly,
depending on his
Hassan
form.
Ali as the fourth seamer in the squad would be like again. I would maybe because of his form and everything, I wouldn't want him to be the guaranteed starter. But if you're
Yeah,
taking two guys, um, like with maybe Wasim and Hassan or Hassan and Hassan or someone, that's
bro, you can
yeah, I
take
wouldn't
three
mind it.
because if he walks into the Fahim role, then you can have the third pacer you pick as your starter, and then you can have another backup as well. So I think he
Yeah,
gives you that ability. Maybe it's a lot of the same. The thing I like about him though is we're assuming that he's not the worst of himself.
yeah,
We're gonna hope and assume and pray that he's closer to the best of himself. He gives you that he's an all phase bowler at that
yeah,
point then, right? Like he can bowl in all three facets
yeah,
of the game.
100%.
Um and you can use
I
him
mean,
how you want at
he's
that
been a
point.
test match opening bowler for Pakistan. He's been a middle
Yeah.
overs in our last limited over format win in the Champions Trophy. He was the first change bowler in that. So again,
True destroyer. Yeah.
he's shown his range as well. You think he
Yeah.
can bowl it to
Yeah.
death these days?
These days I think we'd have to see.
Hmm.
Um, but again, like dude, like even before that World T20, like the whole year he had before that was incredible.
Yeah,
And I remember I think there was like I don't know if it was the third T20I against England where like we were defending a really low total and like guys like him and Hafiz got us back into the game at the death.
yeah,
If the ball is reversing and if he's running in with his tail up, it's a different story. What's interesting for me is when you see Hassan Ali bowling at his best, his speeds are closer to 140, 145. And
yeah.
when he doesn't have that same confidence, it's mid
Nah,
130. So
yeah,
I think a lot of it
100%.
has to do with that. But he's the reason I'm getting so high on him now is because for the last few days you've heard his name come up a lot. Like I think like if
Yeah.
the sources are to be believed, he's the one. Um, if anything, a lot of people I think have him and
I
Zaman
think
making it.
it's
And
because
yeah,
at the end of the day, a lot of these guys have question marks, and so you have
yeah,
to back the character almost.
yeah,
But when there's so
exactly,
many question marks,
exactly.
so many injuries, so many like things to worry about, you have to back the character, um, and that's where Hassan Ali wins, right?
That's where he wins. And bro, I can understand somebody having like the complete opposite viewpoint and thinking I'm an idiot and a lot of people will not want to go to like a tried option who hasn't
Hmm.
really inspired much confidence in the last year, 2 years. But you never know. He's one of those characters who can come up swinging,
Yeah.
and he's won you a tournament as the number one guy. So I
Mhm.
mean, like the ability is there if he's fit and he's firing. You need some. We talked about this. You talked about it on the last podcast how like the team is almost too young sometimes. So to have somebody a little bit older, um, someone who's been there, even though he's not the oldest guy, but somebody who's played for 6 7 years, it's
Speaking
it's
of
never
someone
bad to
who's a
bring
little
him
bit
in.
older, someone who's been there,
Wahab, you talking about Wahab? Who?
I think.
Mo Amir. I don't.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't even think he's. Forget it, man. Let's not talk about Mo Amir. It's
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
Well, I think we've talked about the Pacers. Mostly we said what we've had to say. I think before we move on into picking our World Cup squad, I wanted to quickly chat about someone whose name has been talked about a lot in the last couple of days. I put up a little bit of a poll on our Instagram page to see what people had to say about Abrar Ahmed, our test match leg spinner. And the verdict is that 63% of people say that he should be in the squad because the spinners are struggling, and 37% are saying to back the current squad. So the people are
63
saying
percent of the people are gonna always like the person who's not there. Like
exactly
that's how
100%.
we.
I
That's
agree with
always
that
gonna be part of it.
completely. I did vote as well. I don't know if you did, but I backed the current squad
Respect.
because this is my guys.
Respect.
And look, Abrar brings a lot to the table. I think if this is a few months ago and he had a few ODIs under his belt, I would definitely want him in the team. A part of me like is very excited by potentially having him in the team, just because of what At the end of the day, what you don't have is what you want, and you're excited by what you haven't seen before.
He's
And going
very
into World
exciting.
Cup, and he's very exciting. And going into World
Yeah.
Cup, like with Naseem's injury, like he's the sort of guy who could like give you that sort of the
Yeah.
goosebumps, the
Yeah.
energy, the excitement because of what he brings. I just feel like you have two leg spinners who you've backed for so long that I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit too late. Because look, Shadab is going; he's the vice captain. I mean, I would hope so. Batting, fielding, he brings everything. Guess he had a terrible recent spell, but hopefully, that has come at the right time to give him some reflection. We have a few weeks before the World Cup, just for players to either get some downtime and rest and relax, or just go to the nets and figure out what's wrong with them, or speak to the mentors that they all have. Who, again, just because obviously you have coaches who travel with you. One thing I wanted to actually talk about with spinners is there's no spin bowling coach in the squad right now,
Yeah.
and Saklan Mushtaq was obviously the head coach for quite a while. Um, Obviously, he's not going to go as just a spin bowling coach now, but he's obviously also Shadab's father-in-law. I think
Yeah.
spending some time with Saqib Bhai would be good for Shadab in the next couple of weeks.
Or get Shaheen's father-in-law on the tour. Get one.
Bro, that is a recipe for a disaster.
It could. It's a lot could happen. I want to bring up like an
He'll end up
amazing
being
like.
captain by the end of the World Cup, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Ye bhi ho sakta hai.
But like, sorry, just to end that point, I think again I talked about Shadab with Osama Mir as well. Like he's performed in all limited overs competitions that he's been given a chance in. He's performed the 100, the PSL, everything. He's been kept with the team for a while. Yes, he has had a couple of off performances last time he's played, but those have been like in and out performances, right? Like
Yeah.
you're. It's unlikely you're going to expect Osama Mir to just come in for like one game or something like that in the World Cup. I feel because we're not going to play two leg spinners, so it's
Yeah.
either going to be like if
That's true.
Shadab is really struggling and he comes in for Shadab, or it's going to be
Or
like
it's
if
a
there's an
dust
injury
bowl or something
or
like.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So in that case, I would back him in those scenarios where like if there's a pitch that suits him, we can play him. And I think he gives you a lot with the bat as well. With Abrar, I know he's shown in the test matches that he can like contribute a little bit with the bat, but I think at the end he'll be like another one of those extending the tail type options. And I think
Yeah. Yeah.
we
For
have to
sure.
we have to go with the
For
batsman
sure.
at the end of the day.
I want to bring up an amazing point that you brought up like years ago. Um, that with Shadab, he a lot of the the stop and start nature of his development as a bowler has to do with the fact that he's always been with the Pakistan team since he's
Bro,
been a
I
teenager,
was literally
and they
telling
don't play first class
someone this
cricket
that
because
day.
of that. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
that's a point that you made like all those years back. That's actually really stuck with me, and it makes a hell of a lot of sense.
And people use that as something to like hurt him with, like a stick to beat him with. They go like, oh, like this guy doesn't even care enough. He's only like with the team. He plays T20s. He's
Yeah,
all about like money and whatever. Like this guy's always
yeah,
been with the Pakistan squad since he's 18 years old.
yeah, yeah,
Leg spin,
yeah.
bowling leg spin is the most difficult art in cricket.
In the entire
There's
game.
a lot that
Yeah,
has to go right for you to pick up form. Your
yeah,
um everything like the way you're angling, like you're bowling in with your run up, your rhythm, the wrist position, everything. Um,
yeah.
and it isn't going
Confidence.
right right now. Confidence is huge as well, and right now he isn't getting it right. But bro, like, come on, you've invested in this guy so much over the years. He's been your main guy. If you're not gonna back him on the eve of a World Cup, to step up, then like, when are you gonna back him?
This guy is a four-dimensional cricketer, not a three-dimensional one. He bowls, he bats, he fields, and he's a leader. So those guys are very, very rare. And just be patient, Pakistan fans. Matlab, he's allowed to play bats sometimes. It's okay.
Mhm.
And getting back to that Osama versus Abrar point, I agree with everything you said. Like when Abrar made his debut against England, I was actually hoping that he would get called up into the one-day team, like for the next tour. They went with Osama. Osama's been one of those guys who's earned it through domestic cricket. He bats.
He
He's been
hasn't done
in
anything
really
to
good
get
form.
dropped. What has he
He's
done to
done
get
nothing to
dropped?
get dropped.
This would be so
He's
unfair.
played. No, it would be extremely unfair. He played two games against Afghanistan, one in which like he bowled 3 overs because they got bowled out for 50 something.
Yeah,
And then in the other one, he didn't have the best game, but he went under the team's total economy rate. And he bowled well in the 100. He bats. He had Kane Williamson absolutely destroyed. I think in that beginning of the year tour where even Kane
yeah,
was just like, what the hell just happened? But with that being said, um, Abrar, what he has going for him is the fact that he's a mystery spinner. He's a
yes.
leg spinner who's actually a finger spinner. So if there is a time to get a guy like that in fresh, it's at a World Cup, because these guys, it takes about a year for people to figure them out,
Figure him
and
out. Yeah,
nobody has seen this guy. Um, he's another guy who I think he has a really good attitude. It would not be fair to Osama. Osama's probably a better all around package with experience and his batting. But if they did go with Abrar, I wouldn't complain. Like, I
I agree with you.
understand it.
I agree with you. It like
Um
it wouldn't be something where you can. In the past, Pakistan selection committee has done like stupid things and they
yeah,
make absurd decisions. It would not be one of those. It would be
it would
something
not be
I'd
one of
actually be
those.
having. Despite what I've said, I'd be like I said, I'd be excited to see him in the team. And
Yeah,
mystery spin, bro, we don't have that. And
we don't
having
have
someone
that.
in the nets even to bowl to the players as well, that is
Yes, yes,
important.
bro.
We've spoken about
He's an
how
X factor,
an X factor
for
in the
sure.
World Cup is a perfect time to throw a player like him in. Um, again, and he could play with Shadab in the team because of that factor that you mentioned, right? Like
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
Osama and Shadab are a little bit too similar for both of them to play in the same
yeah.
side, while Abrar and Shadab could play together, and you can bat Shadab in the top six, or top seven,
He'll
and
figure
then
that out
you
after.
can
Yeah,
figure it out. Yeah. So again, there's pros and cons. A lot of people want him in. A lot of people want us to stick with the current squad. I don't think either there's a wrong or right answer here, but I think at the end of the day they're gonna make a decision, and we're gonna back whatever whoever's playing
yeah.
because I think both bring a lot to the table.
Like
I
we were
think I
saying
think
with
where
Hassan Ali
I
though.
sorry, one thing I'd
Good,
like to
good.
add is
Yeah,
Osama has been in the squad for a while. We've seen that the middle overs haven't bowled been or the spinners haven't been bowling well in the middle overs, but they didn't give him a game in the Asia Cup.
he hasn't got any game, bro.
And so,
Yeah,
like, what are you? Do you think that they'll suddenly back him in the World Cup if things aren't going right? Well, I feel like if they pick up Rar, they're probably more likely to play him.
Abrar they will play. I
Yeah,
know this. If they pick
exactly.
Abrar will get game time. I have no doubt about
I
that
mean, at the
throughout
end
the
of the day,
course of
you could
the.
take Osama in the traveling reserve and like just like keep him there and have a Brar
Bro, it
there.
would be a shit thing to do. Like, the guy doesn't deserve it, but sometimes it's not
I
about
just
being fair.
I
Like, you know
agree
what I
with you. I
mean?
agree. I just there's something about Osama Mir where I feel like one day this guy's gonna like he has something about him also.
He
Like he's
does. He
gonna win. Like
does.
if he plays like maybe not with the ball even maybe with the bat. Like I feel like he'll get Pakistan a
Yeah,
victory if he
yeah.
plays. Like you know.
No, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. The one thing before I think we'll end this episode right after this is the fact that just the same way that if sources are to believe, there's a big, there's a tip that Hassan Ali is going to be put in. Very similar, vibe around the Abrar selection. I think
Yeah.
Right now, he's probably like um the halal odds on favorite to like get into the team.
Yeah.
There's no bet way or anything here for you to actually see who the favorites are in the squad, but I think he looks like
Did, did you just say halal or it's not? It took me like a minute to process. Oh, we're keeping that in 100%.
if there was something like this though, I feel like things are moving in his direction right now though. Are you getting a similar feeling?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's why I put the thing up because it looks like
Yeah.
everyone seems to be talking about it.
Facts.
Jai, we'll wrap this one up. The next episode we'll talk about picking our 15 for the World Cup. Hopefully, we're able to release it before the squad is actually out.
And if we
But
don't, we're gonna release it anyways. Just
yeah,
please watch. Yeah.
exactly. You'll see how much we know about cricket by us getting everything spot on, or or
Or
absolutely wrong,
completely wrong.
because like the selectors have lost their heads. So like that could happen as well.
It could
Let's
happen.
um, let's stay tuned for that.
All right. So wrap for this one.
Right.